So about threat intelligence, and I'm going to really spend the majority of my time on the demo, but I wanted to share this slide because it does cover all the areas in which you're going to see threat intelligence within Sentinel, because it's not really all in one area. I'm going to talk about the data connectors. In fact, there's actually a new one either came out today or it's going to come out very soon. And then there are some solutions. I'm actually going to demo this. This is from our RiskIQ acquisition, which is part of it is now MDTI, or Defender for Threat Intelligence. And then there's also threat intelligence that you're gonna see show up in the analytics rules, which I'm also going to show you. And I'm also going to show you the difference between the types of analytics rules and what exactly is the difference between. There's really two main types. And then I'm going to spend some time on incident investigation later, and I'm also going to highlight some of the features that you can take advantage through that. Especially there's a new incident navigation, which I think I'm a huge fan of it. So can't wait to share it with you. We also have playbooks. In fact, the Illuminate solution is actually 27 different playbooks. I'll demo one of those so you can see what you can do. And we're using the RiskIQ one, but obviously, you can bring in any other type of threat intelligence as well. And I'll show you ways to do that, and I'll show you how you can create those playbooks later on today too. And some workbooks. There's actually one main workbook, and then you can also use it through notebooks, which is an area that actually Dave is going to cover a little later today. So that's from that slide. Now, before I jump into the demo, I kind of wanted to get all my slides out of the way so that I can just stay in the demo. So let's talk a little bit about Fusion, and it's really a great follow-up to the UEBA discussion because it makes use of the data that you see. These anomalies here. Those are the anomalies that are coming in from UEBA. So with Fusion, we want to be able to detect a multi-stage attack. We're looking at all this activity. We were talking in the Q&A about data that is coming from Office 365 or maybe Defender 365, or even, and these are only some of them. I mean, there's really you can have a ton of different sources coming into Sentinel, but we're looking at all of that activity, regardless of whether those resources are at. And then we're going to identify anomalies, and we're also going to combine that with telemetry that we're getting from other alerts. So you're going to get alerts that are coming from Defender 365, from Defender for Cloud, from all of the other native solutions. And then what we do is we have machine learning that is automated, and it's on by default. This one, you don't actually, there's no little bar that you have to enable. It is on by default. And by the way, the models are constantly learning. They're learning from known attack patterns. They're learning from indicators of compromise, also from analyst feedback. So when you see those types of incidents that show up, and like I said, I'm going to spend some time on them, that every analyst that closes that, they're going to provide some kind of feedback, whether it's a false positive or whether it was a true positive or whatever the case might be. And so that feedback is fed back to train those Fusion models. So we can correlate those low fidelity, maybe in some cases, informational alerts, like these anomalies are by default just informational. And then we're going to correlate that into high fidelity incidents, because ultimately what we want to do is to make sure that the SOC analysts can prioritize the incidents that they need to work on. And you're going to see that every Fusion incident is going to be a high severity for that case. So that's really the power of Fusion, being able to correlate data from all sorts of different areas. And I think I always give the example of, you're going to have an attack that starts with maybe a phishing email, and then there's some malware on the device, And so you get data from Defender for Office, and you get maybe data from Defender for Endpoint or any kind of other endpoint. It doesn't have to be, I'm just using the Microsoft as an example. But with Sentinel, it doesn't really have to be a specific solution. And then maybe that attacker moves to an EC2 on AWS, or maybe they jump into some PLC on a manufacturing facility, and or an HMI on a manufacturing facility. And so you're able, with Fusion and with Sentinel, you're able to see where that attack began, how far did it make it through, and what kind of damage has it caused, and you're able to take actions with all of that information in front of. So that's really the value of it. And okay, there's well, there's probably more by now, but they're listed in the description of it. It's 122 multi-stage attack scenarios. And it also has the ability, among those, really has the ability to detect potential ransomware. We also have a new set of machine learning algorithms that are going to detect emerging or unknown threats as well. And the other thing that we wanted to point out is that the configuration is actually done through an analytic rule. And I'll just show you during the demo. Makes more sense instead of talking about it. The last thing I wanted to cover here is that, yes, the more sources or data sources that you have, the better, but you don't need all of them. And in fact, you can also, so Fusion can also look at alerts that are coming from custom schedule analytic rules, as long as you don't have, as long as you have tactics and entity mapping information. So if it has tactics and entity mapping, then Fusion will be able to pick it up and put it as part of part of the attack chain. So all the threat intelligence data that you're going to ingest into Sentinel is going to make it here to this threat intelligence blade. This blade is also reading from threat intelligence table. So you can either, if you prefer, to just do your queries here. Why is it so slow? Hello. There we go. This is the table, threat intelligence indicators. Let's take 100 just to see some of it, but the same data that I'm looking at through here, threat intelligence blade, is the same data that I'm going to query up. This is the table where all it's going to end up at. And there's various different ways that you can do that. So you can, you can actually, you can create them right here. You know, if you just know them, and you can type them, and you can put your indicators of compromise here, and that could be domain name, file, an IP or URL. But you can also import it. You can import it using a file, and so CSV format or JSON format. And if I think there's different, it's either file indicator, then you need to pick this, or if not, then you just pick this other one so that you can read it. And the other way is through connectors. Actually, that is not the last way. There's more ways. There's using the TI solution. So when I click on that one, it's actually going to bring me to the threat intelligence solution, which actually includes a few connectors. So if you go here into Content Hub, there we go. Threat intelligence, and it's here. Threat intelligence, this one. So if you install this, see what I mean? There's actually 3 connectors, because there's one that is coming, but it is already listed here. Hunting queries and some workbooks, but the connectors are here, and I'll show you. They're actually going to show up here, because and that error that you just saw is because I tried to install that new connector. So it's not yet ready, but I think it will be very soon. So the threat intelligence, here we go. These are the two main ones for now. The main one that you should really be using is the taxi one. It is using taxi 2.0 and 2.1 data sources. It does not support one because it's a different schema completely. And it's very easy to configure, really, really, really straightforward. So if you have the option to do this or the other one that I'm going to show you, do this one. So all you need to do is actually, you can see the one taxi data that I have here. So this is the name. All I have, I need the server name, the collection ID, and then a user name and a password. And then I can choose to schedule it once a minute, once an hour, or once every day. So very straightforward to configure. And so if you have 6 taxi format, then obviously go with this one. This is the preferred option. Some are still using this. This is the threat intelligence platforms, which has actually been in preview for a while because there's a new one that is currently in preview that will maybe a better option. But the way that this one works, and it'll probably be very similar, it's just using a different API, is that it's going to, you're going to create an application. So you're going to register an application in Azure Active Directory. And if you're not familiar with that, it's basically the process of creating a service account in Azure AD. So you're going to set it up with a password, and that can be a secret, or it can be a certificate. You can even federate it. Authentication is also available there. And then you're going to give it the right permissions. These are the permissions that you're going to have to give to this service account. And the reason is you're just saying, I need permissions to write into that table that I was telling you about. And then you obviously going to grant the consent because it's a pretty high permission to grant to a service account. And then you're going to just provide that information to the application that is going to push the data into Sentinel. And so this is the other current way. And like I said, just keep an eye out for this one because there will be a new one available. As you can see, you can actually see, just like with any other connector, you can actually see the rate at which the data is coming in and whether it's using that connector or not. Okay, so let's go into the analytics rules for a minute. When I installed that Content Hub solution, there were quite a bit of analytics rules that were for TI. There's really 2 types of analytics rules, and there's actually quite a bit of them. TI, anything that says TI map, and there's quite a bit of those. Anything that says TI map is going to compare against the threat intelligence data that you are ingesting into Sentinel. So it's going to compare to that threat intelligence plate or the table that I was just talking about. There's, like I said, there's really quite a bit of them. I think there was even some for, let's see, so you can get an idea of what it is. Yeah, so some of them are actually using ASIM, which is normalization of data. So you can actually look at all your DNS schema data. So these are obviously very useful to have, and they're available right out of the box, so you don't have to create them either, which I think is very nice. But there's also some that are available for other solutions as well, it's like Palo Alto, and I think there's AWS as well, and some other ones are here. So these are the first type of threat intelligence. The other one, analytic rule, there's actually this one right here, which is the, open this up here, or not. Let me just bring this back over and edit. This one is the Microsoft Threat Intelligence indicator. So this is not going to compare against this data. This one is actually going to This is actually Microsoft generated threat intelligence that is matched to domain indicators as well as IP indicators. And it's going to compare those indicators of compromise with event logs. Right now it's comparing with syslog, cephlog, and DNS, Windows DNS. And also more feeds are being added to this. And actually, we got questions because there is a feed right now in there that is part of our Reset IQ acquisition, which is the NDTI, the new NDTI feed. This is not like the same kind of level of threat intelligence that you would get if you purchase NDTI, but it is some threat indicators that are going to come into directly into Sentinel that is being, and you don't need a license for. Now you'll see there's not much you can do, and in fact, we don't suggest that you do, because the only thing that you can do here is disable it, and we don't suggest that you do, because this is, free threat intelligence information that is coming into your Sentinel workspace. So please, definitely leave this enabled and take advantage of that feature there. Let's move into workbooks now. So we have a workbook. I think I'm using it. This one. This is the workbook that comes with the solution as well. And so this kind of gives you an overview of the threat intelligence data that you are ingesting into your workspaces, in my case, because I have several workspaces. And you can visualize that, but there's also this in here, this little area here is the uniqueness of the threat intelligence sources. It'll just give you an idea of, because sometimes people want to see whether they're actually ingesting data and they're actually buying threat intelligence data that is duplicate from vendors. So this uniqueness is attempting to show you some of that information through this workbook as well. And by the way, these are workbooks that are modifiable, so feel free to make them your own and use them as the templates that they are. I always like to show, because a lot of our partners are also using they're also using Defender 365. So I also like to make sure that you guys are aware that there is some threat intelligence or threat analytics data shown through here. And in fact, if you have your data connector for Defender 365, which I'm going to cover in a little bit, you're going to be able to move back and forth between this portal and the Sentinel portal pretty easily, as long as you have access to it. And the information that it's here, it's super valuable. Some of these is the latest threats. Some of these are the ones that are actually affecting your organization, as you can see in here. So this is as you can tell, I've been running some tests on this one. So, and then you also have information on some of the threats that you're exposed to as well. So, and sometimes the teams, like especially in this area, in the analyst report area, they'll give you, see if this one has any, they'll actually give you KQL queries. So if you need to do some hunting on them, I'm trying to search to see, yeah, there you go. So you actually get some advanced hunting queries within this reports that you can use to review and maybe check in which areas your organization has been affected by some of these threats that are available. So do make use of this data, super useful. Don't forget that it is here and it does have some useful information. We also, when we are tracking, where a Microsoft security team is tracking specific vulnerabilities or specific threats, they will also publish blogs in which they also include KQL queries. So even if you don't see them show up immediately into the Content Hub, You might also check our blogs, and then you'll be able to just copy and paste and make use of those as well. And then, okay, so the last thing that I wanted to show you for threat intelligence is the solution from RiskIQ, because this is for RiskIQ Illuminate, and this solution is still here. So it comes with 27 different playbooks. I have it installed, and like I said, I'm using this one because it's available to me. But if you have others, it'll probably work in a similar manner. So what this does, and this is 27 different playbooks, so they do very many things. But I'll just show you one of them so you can get an idea of what you can do. So these are actually used to enrich the incident information. So I'm just going to pick one of these incidents, and I am kind of cheating, and I'll actually show you how I'm cheating in case you need to do demos. But the entities here I know are there were IOCs that I actually went to RiskIQ and I got. So I'll show you. First, I'm going to run the playbook, and then I'll show you how I'm cheating. So I can run a playbook from here, and I'm showing you manually because I want you to see the before and after, but you can automate this, and I'll cover this during the playbook section a little bit later. But I'm going to run this playbook, which is a triage, RiskIQ triage, and I'm going to run it, and then I'll show you what it does once it runs. Let's see. I don't know why everything's slow, of course, when I'm showing them Teams today. All right. All right. So it ran, it succeeded. And by the way, if it had failed, and I'll cover this during the playbooks later, but you can troubleshoot to see. This one, what it does is actually going to go out to RiskIQ. It's, well, it gets first the host information and the IP's information, and it goes out to RiskIQ, and it gets the information from RiskIQ about those, the reputation of that host or of that IP. And then if true, then it actually updates the Sentinel. And in my case, I'm going to refresh so you can actually see it. One thing that it did is it raised the severity. In this case, it was a medium, and now it is a high. And the reason, and it also added some tags in here. The reason why it did that is because it found some malicious IPs. And then it also updated with some comments, which you can see from here. You can actually see from here too, from the activity log. So you can't, and it updated the incident to enrich with data that it found on RiskIQ to bring it over to directly to the SOC analyst right there, so they can actually read, what each of these IPs are, what they're dealing with. In some cases, for the ones that I think for the ones that are found to be malicious, it'll actually give you a link to the article directly, so the analyst can just jump straight to RiskIQ and get additional information about what this type of attack involves, and any type of information. And also, you can also see additional RiskIQ indicators here. And I love this because you're bringing information to the SOC analyst as opposed to waiting for them to have to go out and figure out what it is that they're looking at. And like I said, you can schedule these to run automatically. And the other way that you can, and actually I'm going to cover that during the investigation, which I'm going to jump into right now. Okay, I'm keeping track of my time. How am I doing? I have half an hour left, right? Is that right, Internil? 30 minutes left?
Let me quickly check.
I think that's it.
Yeah, another 30 minutes.
Okay, cool. Awesome. All right. Let's see the last thing that I want to cover from TI is there is, sorry, it's hard to navigate when I have it so huge. All right, notebooks. You can have there's actually some notebooks that are already in the templates, but no, and actually I'm gonna wait because Dave is actually gonna cover this notebooks area, but you can bring in TI data into notebooks. So you can, in my case, I have it connected to VirusTotal with my API key. And so I can run some of these guided investigations and actually get information from VirusTotal into here. So that's the last area that you can actually get TI data into Sentinel that you can overview. All right, so let's jump into Fusion. And I actually, if you could tell, I've been playing around and doing all sorts of attacks so that I could generate some Fusion incidents. I do need to expand it, I think. And I think I did some ransomware, if I remember correctly. Yes, I did. Okay, so I'm going to start with this one. So this is the power of Fusion, really, being able to detect, and I'm going to kind of cover Fusion at the same time as I cover incident investigation. Actually, first, I forgot one area. So these, down here, the way that you can configure Fusion, and you really don't enable it, like I said before, all you do is really configure it. Stage. Okay, let me just filter it here. The rule type, and it's Fusion, and there it is, sir. Advanced multi-stage attack detection. This is the Fusion configuration, the one and only rule type, and actually tells you right here, these are the 122 scenarios that I was telling you about. These are the data sources, and these are the ones that I was telling you about, that as long as you have chain tactics and entity mapping into your custom analytic rules, then Fusion will take them into effect. And if you want to read more about Fusion, aka.ms, Sentinel Fusion, and there's actually even a white paper. If you really, really want to know how the engine works, there's a white paper that tells you all about it too. So all you do is configure Fusion. So this looks very, very different than any other analytic rule. And what you can do is disable these from coming in, which I don't recommend that you do unless you have specific issue with one of them. And then you can also, if any of them are becoming too noisy or you have issues, you could disable some of the specific severities from coming in or being taken into account by the Fusion analytic rule. And then the and this goes, by the way, for the Sentinel schedule analytic tools and rules, and also for the NRTs as well. You can have exclusion patterns, and this is actually done through the incident. So I'm going to try to pull up one a little bit later so you can actually see how this is done. And actually, maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in to another instance where they have some of these so that you can actually see what they look like. Expand. This is, by the way, I'm pulling in to, because I'm working mostly out of my tenant, but this is the tenant that is Contoso Hotels that everyone has access to. So if you guys want access to this, let us know. We can share that with you. All right, so I'm going to pull the crypto one so you can actually see. I think this is one of those. Yeah, this is a Fusion incident. Yeah, so this is what it would show like. If you want to exclude a specific type of incident, you can come to the incident itself and you're going to get one of these exclusion links for those that are where you can actually exclude and see what it does here. See, it just added this one, and I'm not going to leave it, but this, you can actually add those patterns. That's how you would go and add one of those patterns. I didn't have a crypto one in my tenant, so I wasn't able to show you from mine, but now you know how you can add these exclusion patterns here. All right, so I'm going to go back to the incident to actually show you how to troubleshoot some of these. And I think I was looking at a ransomware one. Oh, here we go. Let's just pick this one. So this one is and it'll tell you right here, it's a fusion incident, and you can get more information about it. Oh, look, it does have the exclusion links. I could have showed you from right here. Sorry. But let me go through the actual investigation purpose. So first of all, in here, you're going to get this timeline here. This is where you can really see the value of Fusion, I think, because you can see, alerts that would have come. And in this case, I think let's see where they came from. This one's came from Defender for Endpoint, from Sentinel, so some of my custom ones, and then Azure Defender, which is really the old name for Defender for Cloud. So you're really seeing the Fusion engine correlating all these types of different alerts that are coming into Sentinel from different sources. And I don't have a whole lot of sources, but if you had more, you'd probably see it correlate them all and put together a whole attack path that started at 1645 on March 16th and ended up at 1706. And it can see that, and it can probably see it because of the entities that are in there, and then it also, of course, has its own algorithm internally that it correlates this based on tactics as well. And you can see, and actually I can probably expand more here to see some of the entities information. By the way, if I click in here, let's see, this is something new that is available now. You can also run playbooks at entity level. Before, you could only run playbooks at incident and alert level, but now you can do so at entity level. But I can get additional information about those hosts from here. And this is actually the information that Zach was covering earlier from UEBA. That is actually, and this one doesn't have a user, but I'll probably pull up another one so you can actually see the user information pull out in here. Let's click on investigate so you can actually visualize this attack as well. And I'm glad that I picked one that didn't have that many, because it does turn to be very busy. So you can see, you can come here. And by the way, you can actually remove an alert. This is something that is available now. So if you think this really shouldn't be here, it shouldn't be related to this, you can actually take action directly from here and do that. You can also run playbooks directly from here, and you can get additional information. Let me pull up one of these other, let's see if I have any on the VM itself. Let's see. This is Mimikatz. Oh, I don't have it in here. All right. But let me show you. So you can get additional information on each of these entities. You can jump into the specific entity. That's where it was, right in the middle. The VIPWIM lab, and get additional information and see which ones are related to that one specifically. And so you can highlight, and you can actually see as you go along which ones are related. You can get insights. Did I highlight this one? Yes, I did. Insights about that machine, specifically any kind of information that I have on it. And the other thing that you can do is you actually can see, you're going to see if this lights up, it means that there's actually results in the query. And actually, you can see that there are 37. So if I click on this, I can jump directly to the KQL query and then look at all the information directly from the, or maybe modify the query so that I can look at additional information and so on. So it actually gives you that right there. The other thing that it allows you to do is that it allows you to add TI entity actions. See, you can, in the case of this hash value, if I wanted to add this to my TI that we were just talking about earlier, I could do that from here directly as well. And like I said, now this is available for entities as well, where you can actually run playbooks at entity level, which I'll dig into in the session that my later session today, which is going to focus on just playbooks. We're just focusing right now on the incident investigation. And let's see. The other thing that I wanted to look at is, I talked to you about the exclusion. Oh, incidents for fusion are by default are going to be high. So there's no, there's nothing that you can put in place to actually push it to be a different, by default, these are going to be a high severity. There's also, actually, I wanted to show you a link that I'm going to share here. This documentation, and I'll share this in the chat as well. You can have it. This is the scenario-based fusion detections. These are the list of detections, because we get a lot of questions about which specific detections, what's currently in preview. So you can actually read through this and see all the various different detections. So I'm only showing you a few of them, but there's actually quite a bit and there's a lot more information in there that you can find. And then, okay, so the other thing that I wanted to show you, in this one in particular, you can jump into Defender for Endpoint. And this is very easy for me because I'm actually within my own tenant. So if I have access to it, I can go through it, but I'll show you in a minute how it would work if it's if you're an MSSP and you're jumping between different customers. So you can, how does that work? But what you're able to do here is that you're able to investigate the incident, and if you wanted to, like, narrow down to get the same type of information that you would get from Defender 365, if you want to get additional information about that device that you're going to get it from Defender for Endpoint, then you can jump over here and do that type of investigation. And this connector, the Defender 365 connector, is a bidirectional connector. So if you make changes, if you close this incident over here, then it's going to close the on the other side as well. And if you close it on Sentinel, it's going to close it over here as well. So and that's the same case for Defender for Cloud as well. And you get a very similar type of link in here, where you can actually jump back and forth between Defender for Cloud and Defender for and Sentinel. The other one of the other new features that are now available here is this one, tasks. This is now, it's currently in preview, but I'm actually going to show you a playbook that adds tasks automatically, depending on the type of incident that triggered. But you can come here and manually add tasks for your SOC analyst to follow specific steps, and you can even put links in here. So like if they need to go to some external storage to gather additional information that is not in here, you can also put this in here. And like I said, I'll show you a playbook. If we don't have time now, I'll show it to you during the playbook session, where you can actually add this automatically. You can also jump into logs in here directly so it's not just from the investigate area. You can do that. And let's see, hold on, activity logs, I showed you. Oh, the other area is here, similar incidents. This is another thing that is in preview as well, which I think it's super useful. And it's not a, in my case, I don't close any of these incidents. But if you do, it's super useful, because if you find some of these, for example, what did the last SOC analyst do with that Mimikatz incident? How did they go about it? How did they investigate it, or whatever you want to? It'll automatically pull those similar incidents in here, and it actually, let me close. It makes this a little bit smaller so you can actually see, because I can't move. It can actually, it'll tell you the similarity reason here. So in here is similar entities, and in here is similar rule as well. So the advanced multi-stage attack detection rule. So this is why it detected them as similar. And it can be really useful, especially for a SOC analyst that is doing an investigation, to figure out what they did before to investigate this. And it could be a similar IP, a similar hash, a similar something else, and that's how it's going to identify them as similar. And activity log, I did that. Okay, so now I'm just going to show you from the other side because I want you to see the difference. So this is in my tenant. Now I'm going to, and by the way, like I said, I can access these incidents directly from here. So I can also investigate incidents from this page and take a look at all of my customers' workspaces. But I can also just jump into my specific customer workspace. If I have set up Azure Lighthouse, I can just jump into my customer workspace and go investigate over there. Now, I'm going to show you how, let me expand this. I was doing some testing here so I could show you. Suspicious, this one. Okay. Suspicious activity. Okay, so this one was one of the tests that I was doing. I'm gonna open this up. And so I get again the link for Defender 365. Now, when I go here, and I'm going to close the other one, I'm actually going into my customer workspace right here, which is the reason why I'm getting this approved sign-in request, which I'm turning in 40. And it should go in. So in my case, I don't have access to Partner Center, so I have to use B2B to do this. So, but in your case, you guys have access to GDAP, and I do suggest that you, like Dave was saying yesterday, review the session that we did that covered everything about MSSPs and identity for the Azure security session, because it will, I think GDAP is probably a better option for you as partners because it doesn't create an identity within the customer's tenant, whereas B2B does. And a lot of you have compliance requirements that prevent you from creating those identities into the customer's tenant. So that's why we really encourage you to review the GDAP information. But ultimately, like I said, in my case, I'm not a partner, so I don't have Partner Center set up. And so what I have is B2B, but it does give you the same access. So I was able to jump in from my customer incident, which I'm looking at from my workspace, from my login, but I'm able to jump into investigate, take a look at information into my customer's tenant directly. Again, I have to have the right permissions, so it's, if I didn't have security administrator here, I wouldn't be able to see this information. I wouldn't be able to take actions either in some of these cases. So you're still going to need those permissions set up and in place to be able to take those actions. But it does make it easier to, well, it's really the only way that you're going to be able to jump back and forth between. If you notice here, that link, it has a TID. That's the tenant ID. So if I had to go look at another customer, it will know exactly which customer it is that I'm going to, because in the URL, the link that it puts in, when I put my hover here, it's going to show up here. So it includes that tenant ID, so it knows exactly which tenant I'm going to. And I do recommend that you start setting up GDAP and setting up this type of integration, because there's more features that are coming to both Sentinel and Defender 365 that are going to make it easier for MSSPs to manage customers. And some of these permissions are going to have to be in place for those features to start working and for you to be able to take advantage of those features. So highly encourage you to review that information and get going as soon as possible.